Yeah, so ML stuff, cool ML stuff out in the real world, in the field of film. There's this documentary called Welcome to Chechnya, where they interviewed LGBT people in Chechnya about the like sort of like the state prosecuting them. Um, and they actually used deep fakes and like took faces of volunteers and deep faked them onto the interviews to do privacy protection of the people because they like didn't want to like expose their true face. But with a deep fake, you can like still see their facial expressions and it still feels like yeah, it is still like pretty much like the raw interview, but they used the deep fake to privacy protect them in the documentary. In the field of design, this is Adam Picard's work. He was actually a former student, but he made this. He has this page or this blog post where he talks about the experience of taking the class. He trained a model on chairs, and this is and basically like is imagining began as like something to help like designers design different things and sort of like tweak different designs. In the field of fashion, Robbie Barat, uh, they're another AI artist. Um, I think they're actually like really like pretty young, but trained a bunch of uh, like runway photos from like Balenciaga shows, and eventually like it ended up being a collaboration where they posted like these AI generated fashion designs, and then eventually I think they ended up collaborating with Acne Studios to like create like AI based fashion designs. And sometimes like the AI puts things in places that like I don't know, like no human fashion designer would think of, like putting this weird pocket flap thing on the side of a pants leg. Um, but yeah, it kind of comes up with like very interesting novel designs that usually like are really really out of the box. Yeah, and these are some designs that actually came out at the very end where like I think sort of like this weird cut thing is very hallmark of like GAN generated stuff, like the weird like that sort of curve, like things like morphing in and out. In the field of books, this is yeah, we haven't covered a lot of text, but this is a book where every single copy of the book is slightly different. Like for example, here's one copy where you can see like this first paragraph is pretty much the same, but then it like goes in a different direction where it like ends it ends with like that shouldn't have, but then I was in the kitchen making ramen, and then over here it's like I was on the back porch, and then this goes in a totally different direction than this one. And I think it incorporates itself into the plot line of the book really well because it's about like parallel realities itself. So it's kind of like the medium of the book and different copies of the books tell the entire message of like parallel realities and everything. And I think he goes into like yeah, I think if you dig into um his stuff, like Aaron Reed's stuff, he has a blog post where he goes over how he actually like trained the network and everything. But it's pretty cool. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I guess that was a quick, fun smattering of ML out in the real world. Um, but the part that we were talking about before was downloading your model from Runway ML. So, like we were saying, um, once you've trained your model, you have 14 days. You have 14 days after completing a training experiment to change the default checkpoint. You have 14 days to basically decide which model you want Runway to host, but also you have 14 days to download your models. So yeah, it's a little bit hard to find if you start on the homepage, but once you've trained a model, you should go and download the files before they delete them after 14 days. So once you're here, you should go to train and then scroll down to completed and then click on the one that you trained. And that'll bring you to this page. And this page, if you click this, so it says selected checkpoint step 1000. So that's saying the model that we're showing you right now is the step 1000 checkpoint, like after it trained for 1000 steps. But if you click change here, then this comes out and you can like select different past steps. And that's what Eddie was talking about, like saying that after like some certain number of steps, all the results weren't that great, and so he had to like back roll it to an earlier checkpoint. Yeah, I would recommend here to just go and click download for ones that you think that you might want to use in the future. And this will go ahead and start a download of a file, and it'll end in a .pkl extension. They're called pickle files. And when it's done, it'll be a pretty big file because they're model files, but it'll be, yeah, something, something, something .pkl. And that's like the model format. So yeah, I would just go through and download ones that you think might come in handy in the future, because after 14 days, they'll all be wiped, except for the one you set as your default. Yeah, also if you wanted to like go back, it is a little bit hidden in the UI, but if you wanted to click like to see that like the video of how the training progressed, you can go up here and click training, and then this is how you'd go back to this view and like download the progress video, for example. Yeah, or like save the video or generate more images.
Good question, Leah.
Yeah.
Will you always be able to export images from the model that you choose to keep? Will that option always be there?
Like the that you choose as the default?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
on the right, I can always save that video.
Yeah, so Runway will pretty much be like, we're only going to store one of these on our servers, so you can pick one as the default. But yeah, also for ones that you download the pickle file for, you can generate those images in Colab. Yeah, but yeah, whichever one you pick as the default will be the one that will be hosted on Runway going forward. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Cool. Well then I'll move on to dataset tools. Dataset tools is it's just a library to do a bunch of dataset batch operations like resizing or cropping to square. I'll do a quick demo of it, but yeah, if you look at the GitHub repo for it, it contains dataset tools. Yeah, it contains this all options and all of these options. Usually the one that you use is process type, which contains a bunch of different options like resizing, square, crop to square, which is the same thing that I've copied and pasted right here. Yeah, in general, let me, yeah, I'll actually show it in the Colab notebook. I've linked, there is a Colab notebook right here that I'll drag and put right here. I'll also drop the Colab notebook in the chat. So in the Colab notebook for dataset tools, this first cell is to import your Google Drive or connect your Google Drive, which is optional. It's necessary if your dataset's in your Google Drive. Otherwise, you can also just upload it to Colab. And yeah, you'll have to go through this 2-FAC. Yeah, essentially what the commands look like using the dataset tools library is you have like Python dataset tools, like Python, run the dataset tools script. And then these two lines are like the main lines you're going to edit, like where your input folder is and where you want your output folder to be saved. And then this is for resizing to 1024, 1024. So this is why it has the process type as resize and the height and width as 1024. There's a quick demo of that. So I've attached my Google Drive up here, and I have prepared this small little dataset tools test folder that is in my Google Drive. And it's just like a data set of a couple images. These images themselves are not yet 1024 by 1024. If I go look at them in, yeah, if I go look at them, they're actually not 1024 by 1024. I think some of them are 640 by 640. Let's see. This one is 750 by 750. This one is 640 by 640. So yeah, it's good that they're all square, but we want them to be 1024 by 1024. And so if I can use this command to resize them. So if I went ahead and grabbed this path and put it in as my input folder, and then I created, I'd say like, I want my output folder to be, I don't know, resized to 1024. And I ran that cell, that it would run that, it'd pop it up, resize to 1024. And then here, these should all be 1024 by 1024. And we can double check that by going back here. Maybe I'll download this. And we can check that it's 1024 by 1024. Boop. Details. Yeah, dimensions 1024 by 1024. So yeah, now all of these are resized to 1024 by 1024. And they've just been stretched. So that is what this first command is. Essentially like exactly the same command that's in Colab, where you put Python, name of the script, dataset tools.py, and then you substitute in your input folder and where you want them to be saved. And then you can specify the process type of resize. If you pass in non-square images, it'll just like, I don't know, it's kind of like if you took the diagonal, like if you like were transforming an image, if you just like maintained the same aspect ratio, if you just took like the diagonal and like dragged it in, it would maintain the same aspect ratio. There's also process type square, which if you have a rectangular image, will try and make it square. So usually with square, you have to combine it with a maximum size that you want. So For example, my original image was 900 by 1418, and I wanted 1024. So I specified max size as 1024. And then I also had to specify a border type, like how do you want to pad these edges? And you can either pick a border type of stretch, reflect, or solid. And if you pick solid, that just means fill in with a solid color. And if you pick solid, you have to specify with what color, which is an RGB color, border color. So this result was with max size 1024, border type solid, and border color 25500 to get this padded image. You can also do border type reflect, which will result in this sort of image where, yeah, where in order to like fill the padding, it just reflects over that axis. There's also this other process type called crop to square, which will, yeah, it'll literally just like crop it to square. I think it'll center a line by default. But I think there is another option you can put in to specify like if you want it top aligned or bottom aligned. And this you also should specify a maximum size. Yeah, and then like I brought this up when talking about Annie's sunsets. If you have a data set and you want more and you like literally can't find more, one thing you can do is you can mirror it. This is also available in dataset tools. This will 2x your data. And yeah, it's pretty much the same command, input folder, output folder, but then you put this dash dash mirror. I've also included it here. So it's just the same thing, but dash dash mirror. And yeah, that will just output to the folder your data set and your data set mirrored. So you'll get 2 times the amount of images. In general, it's good for things that are symmetric, like faces or landscapes that don't really have a left-right orientation. But you probably wouldn't want to do this for text, where, you know, the text itself wouldn't have much of a meaning if it was flipped backwards. Also, if you wanted to 4x your data, there's also a dash dash rotate, which you just use in place of dash dash mirror, which will do like, yeah, 90-degree rotations. And in general, that's good if your orientation is arbitrary. So yeah, in the case of like your sunsets, Annie, the left-right mirroring would make sense, but not the 4x rotation because you wouldn't want like the water in the sky unless that's what you're going for.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, these are non-data set tools ways of getting more data. You can also do closer crops. Like you could have like this, you could have this image and then turn that image into 2 images, like the original and one that's like cropped slightly closer. Also, you can do reverse image search on Google Images. Like if you just go into like image search and you drag your image, you can get like a lot more similar images. And Google has it, Pinterest has it, Bing has it. Yeah, so if you go on Google Images, you can drag and drop. Also, Pinterest has one as well, where you can, oops, this is Pinterest. And yeah, this one's Bing. Bing has a reverse image search as well. Yeah. Any questions so far? That's all dataset stuff. No? Okay, if not, I think we can take a 5-minute break so we can circle back at 8:15, at 15 after.
Cool. Leah, could I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just haven't used Python through the terminal
Mhm.
on a Mac, which has Python 2 on it.
Yeah.
And I'm just a little lost. I don't know what to do.
Okay, yeah, what are you trying to do?
Just to run dataset tools in a basic way.
Hmm.
So for example, what I tried doing was just downloading dataset tools through GitHub because I
Mhm.
figured that was the easiest. And then I've just kind of like set the directory to the dataset tools main folder.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure exactly how to proceed. Like what,
Okay. Um, well, hmm, well, you have two options. You can use dataset tools in your local machine. And I think like, yeah, you mentioned that you wanted to like figure out how to learn, like, I don't know, figure it out and like learn Python. So I think that would be a good learning experience. Also, you can run dataset tools just from Colab, like I showed today, in which case you don't have to deal with any like having the wrong version of Python, for example.
right.
Yeah, and you don't have to deal with any dependencies. But yeah, happy to help debug on your local machine as well.
Cool. Yeah, sorry. I think that makes sense. Maybe I'll try through Google Colab first and then just give it a first shot.
Yeah.
And then come with some specific problems.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, I'm also happy like to help you like get it set up on your Mac.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Okay. Yeah, see you all back in 4 minutes. I saw that Eddie posted some stuff, a project from a colleague. Oh, Kevin, how's your training going? Is it done yet?
It is done.
Hooray!
Yeah, I had maxed it out at 25,000 also,
Nice.
but now I
Yeah.
was just kind of looking at what Eddie said. But let me share the videos.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Eddie posted this. Am I sharing my screen now? Let me share my screen. Oop. Yeah, Eddie posted this piece, a project from a colleague in an SFPC course I took last summer who trained again on Portuguese tiles.
Yeah, I saw this like a year ago, and that's what piqued my interest in machine learning. I was like, that is
Sweet.
so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice because like a lot of them are centered and they have a well-defined center.
Hmm.
It looks really organic. It doesn't really look like it was done in a machine.
Yeah, I think that's like the GAN aesthetic is it adds a lot of like texture that wasn't there before and it makes things look really painterly. I have a friend who, yeah, he uses like algorithmic means to generate images, but then he puts them through again to like add sort of like the extra organic painterly texture to them. They end up looking kind of like watercolory. And I can add like a lot of like organic naturalness to the aesthetic. Let's see. Look at these. Wow. It's a fake. I don't know what that is.
No one
Wow.
does.
Casters are so good.
Oh, cool.
The video wasn't quite what I was expecting, but
It's the video.
it's a little less interesting, I feel like, than maybe the images, just because there's not like a consistent, like the circuit boards are so cool because it's very consistent. But I feel like the static images are maybe a little cooler.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Are they white? Is the video more white because of the background being white? Like, why is the video more kind of bleached out than the photos are?
Good point. I'm not sure. I think all the backgrounds are white. So I wonder if that's it.
Yeah, I
But
wonder if,
yeah.
yeah. Did you like pick and choose these ones? Because I imagine like you probably picked out the ones that had the brightest colors.
Yeah, I tried to pick out the some of the better ones from the 100 or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But I feel like the video like skews monochrome for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, would there be a reason to like download more than 100 from these? Like, do you just get completely random results every time, or no?
I'm not actually sure how Runway does it. If you generate 100, if it's different every time. I know in Colab you can specify, like you want. Yeah, I think we'll go over this next week, but yeah, in Colab you specify, like I want. They're called like random seeds, and they're basically just like, if you say seeds, if you say generate the image for seed 1, it'll generate one image. If you say generate the image for seed 1, again, it'll generate the same image. If you say generate the image for seed 5, it'll generate a complete different image. And there's no relation between like 1 and 2 and 5, like numerically. They're just sort of pointers for random images. Yeah, sometimes in general, like for my usage, I sometimes download like 50 to 100, but then I think more than that, I'm like, I don't really think I'll even go through all of these. If you're looking for something specific and you don't see enough of it, then like generating 500 might make sense. Yeah.
Is there a way to regenerate the latent walk video using a different step count?
Different step count. What do you mean by different step count?
Well, I think because we did like 25, or I did like 25,000,
Mhm.
and then like Eddie had good results, for example, like with fewer than that. And so if I were to see that like actually like 15,000, for example, like the results are better.
Yeah.
Or do I just do like 15,000 and then kind of like use like the vector view to kind of like download images?
Yeah, in Runway, once you like whatever one you pick as your default, that'll be the one that like you can use in Runway. So if I set this earlier one as the default, then like if I click save video, it'll be from this one. Or if I do add to workspace, all of these operations will be from the earlier one, like whichever one is set as the default. So that's within Runway. If you wanted, if you've also like saved out these pickle files, you can also do it in Google Colab afterward. In Google Colab, you also have a little bit more freedom when generating these latent walk videos. Because I think, yeah, Runway just sort of picks some random images to interpolate between, and you don't really have control over that. Whereas in Colab, you can specify, like, if you wanted, I want to go from this blue one to this yellow one. You can specify that, and it'll interpolate between those two. Yeah. Cool. All good questions.
Cool.
Do you have what do you think you want to do with these?
I just want to play with the vector tool and like keep finding some like unusual ones. I don't know, just wanted to see it.
Oh, yeah. I really like this blue one.
I like, yeah.
I was gonna say I like the mop looking one or the vacuum.
This one?
Yeah, that one. That one's so cool. It has like an outline.
Yeah, it looks like an alien telephone or something.
Yeah. I like a lot of the objects seem to have small wheels at the bottom. So I like when there's a blobby shape and then like little wheels. It's like, I don't know.
You
And
should just
it's the thing.
use, you should make these in real life, like make physical forms of them.
Yeah.
With little wheels.
Yeah, a cool gallery in Chelsea. Exhibition.
Yeah, that reminds me, yeah, someone whose work I saw, they trained an AI text generator on like museum art descriptions, and then the AI like would spit out like, I don't know, like a watercolor of an egg with a woman something that represents X. And then he just like made a whole series of like what the AI told him to make. And it was it was a very interesting loop of like, I don't know, like loss of control and the AI telling him like what art to make. And yeah.
Maybe you covered this, but
Mhm.
is there somewhere to look for inspiration of what we can do like next?
There's a, in terms of ML, this is a big blog of machine learning art. Let me drop it in the chat. ML Art Co. Yeah, some of these will be Stallion, like this one's Stallion. But it'll include a bunch of other models as well. Like this one, I think you've seen. There, I am.
Oh, yours
But
is the
yeah.
prettiest. They're all brown.
Thank you.
And yours is all colorful.
Yeah, so this is, I think like you can filter on a bunch of different things, like different technologies. There might be like one for Stallion specifically. Yeah, Stallion. Stallion. Yeah, lots of different things. Oh, here's some letter forms too. But yeah, a lot of different projects you can check out. Cool. Any other questions? These textiles look cool too.
Those are so beautiful. I love those.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. Well, I'm gonna move on to how to train in Colab. Since you all know how to train in Runway. So in Colab, if you're training in Colab, the two things you'll generally need are Colab Pro, which costs about $10 a month. What that gives you is over the free version of Colab, you get longer run times. So instead of like quitting out after 8 hours, it'll quit out after like 24 hours. Also, it'll give you access to faster GPUs, so your training will run faster. Yeah, I think like if you're gonna do training, you definitely need Colab Pro. You may or may not need to upgrade your Google Drive storage depending on how full your Google Drive is. But yeah, the reason why you'll need Google Drive storage is that all of the models, like for example, like here on Runway, all of these will just be stored in your Google Drive as it's training, and so it'll fill up the space kind of fast if you just have the regular free version of Google Drive. The one that I use is I have the 2 TB one, and yeah, I'm like not anywhere near filling it up, and it's about $10 a month, so it's not too bad. But yeah, you might not need to go directly to the 2 TB. You could just like increment up as you hit your limits. Yeah, like you all know the drill with training. And generally, just upload your data set, do any pre-processing like cropping, and then you pick your transfer model by resolution, not content. So this is the model you're training off of. And then train. This will be the thing that'll take some time, and you can check on your state of it every hour or so. And then later on, test, which we'll go over next week. This is like, what can I do now that I have a trained model? Like generating images. In Colab, your data set you're going to upload as a zip file to your Google Drive, then run the training command in Colab, which I'll show you, and then check on it every once in a while. This is the Colab notebook, which links to here. I can also drop this in the chat. Yeah, so this notebook contains a bunch of other stuff, but we're only going to go up to training. So there's setup, blah, 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 train the model, and resume training. All of that is like from here up is the training. Everything else is testing or inference, which we'll go over next week, which is what can I do now that I've trained my model? But yeah, in the beginning, there's just some setup. Like always, if you're doing this, you would want to save your own copy. It says I have too many sessions. Hold on. With Google Colab, you can run 3 tabs at a time. But if you have too many open, it'll tell you to close one. Yeah, this first command is to just check what GPU you have. This one, it seems like I've been assigned a Tesla P100. In Colab, the best one you can get is a V100. A P100 is kind of like, if you have Colab Pro, it's the standard one you get. A V100 will train about 50% faster. Sometimes there's like a trick if you just like factory reset, it'll like roll the dice again and then you might get a nicer one, but you might not. If it really matters to you, you can like, do this until you get a V100, and then your training will like be reduced. Maybe if it originally took like 8 hours, it might take 4 or 5 hours instead. Okay, so, and then this is to attach your Google Drive. This is, part of the reason why you might need a larger Google Drive account. So now my Google Drive is here. This cell will install the Stalgan repository in your Google Drive. So this will go and put in your Google Drive this folder called Colab SG2 ADA PyTorch, which stands for like Stalgan 2 ADA, which is the type of Stalgan, and PyTorch, which is the machine learning framework that it uses. And it has gone ahead and dropped this in your Google Drive. Like if I was in my drive, Colab SG2 ADA PyTorch, and it went ahead and put all of this stuff in my Google Drive. This cell will just, if you already have ran these cells, the cell will just update your repository to the most recent one. Like for example, I already had this in my Google Drive, but now there's some updates to the repository, which it's pulled to the latest. And this is the place where you would edit to train your model. The first thing you'd do is upload your zip folder of square images to this folder right here, this datasets folder that's in the repository that it's installed in your Google Drive. So I already have put in some of these, a couple zip folders. This one is a dataset of Chinese paper cuts. So I've like actually gone ahead and gone into data sets, and this is where I've uploaded my zip files of data sets. And then here you just type in the path to this. So just go ahead and copy the path and put it right here. That's the dataset path. Resume from. This is where you pick which pre-trained model to train off of. Like in Colab, I think most of you picked the faces model. Here, if you're yeah, you have a choice of wiki art or FFHQ. There's not really a huge difference between the two. If you're training, maybe if you're doing something that is more abstract, I would recommend choosing wiki art, or if it's something like more photographic, FFHQ might be better. But your two choices are to stick with wiki art or to type in FFHQ 1024. These two, og strength and train count, you don't need to edit the first time you train. You'll need to edit them if you're starting up the training again. Like if you like run collab for 15 hours and then you look at the results and you want it to train more, that would be resume training. And for resuming training, you would enter in numbers for these. But I can go over that after this. And also, this model itself has built-in mirroring. So if you wanted it to be mirrored left to right, you can put in true right here. Otherwise, you can leave it as false. It's just a choice up to you, like whether you want left-right mirroring in your data set when it's training. And yeah, otherwise, I can go ahead and start training this one. If I run this, it set my variables, and now if I just go ahead and run this cell, it should go ahead and start the training. And yeah, it's spinning up. It'll start spitting out all of this. If it spits out all of this, it means that things are working and things are going well. Like there are no errors. Yeah, it says my number of images is 874. I have images that are 1024 by 1024. It's starting from this wiki art pickle file, like the pre-trained wiki art model. And it'll start spitting out some stuff. And you can also check that it's working by going to your Colab and going into the Colab SG288 PyTorch. And it'll start putting stuff it's trained in results. So this one just started like at 8:38 p.m. I only have these other ones from before. But yeah, it's just started running this one. And in a tiny bit, we should see some stuff coming out. So yeah, it's beginning training. And yeah, this is like once you see these ticks going, like these lines, it means that it's training. And so yeah, I think if I refresh this, yeah. If I come back here, it has some fakes, which these are the initial things from wiki art, like where you're pre-training off of. If you picked FFHQ, these would be faces. And then these are reels, and this is what it's trying to achieve. And these are real images from your data set. So these are real paper cuts that I collected from the internet. And it's trying to approximate these. And so as this trains, it'll like stick here all of the results. So it'll spit out, I can go to an early, like one that I've trained before. It'll just spit out fakes and pickle files for every like 16 or so steps. And you can like check in to see how it's doing at various levels. So these fakes will correspond to this pickle file. And yeah, as you can see, like these files they're not small, and so yeah, that's the reason why you might need to upgrade your drive space, because it's literally just like saving it all to your Google Drive. Yeah, so this is running. Once you get to this point and it's going, you would just leave this tab open for like as long as you can for like 20 hours. Often, yeah, I just like leave my computer on and plugged in and turn off the sleep function because, yeah, if the tab closes, then Colab closes, and then you lose your training session. So do find a way to like keep your computer alive um, during training. And then after, so let's say like, yeah, it's trained for a little bit, and you want it to train for longer. Like this is an earlier one. What you would do is, let me stop this. Yeah, what would you do if you wanted to resume training? Like let's say your collab disconnected for some reason, or you hit the time limit and you want to reset. Your dataset path would be the same. Your resume from, this is where you would put in your like last pickle file, like the last checkpoint. And so where those are stored are same place in the results, like here. And you would grab the pickle file that you like. So you would like match up you'd match up the images from the fakes, and then you would say, okay, this one looked good, and that's where I want to resume training from. Like, and then you'd take that path and put that here as your resume from. So this one is like something network snapshot, and then the last one. This number here, it's basically like the number of steps in Runway. Here they use a different unit called K images, which is a little bit in the weeds to explain, but it's related to how many thousand images of your data set have passed through. And you can, yeah, just grab that number and then put that here as the train count. It won't really affect the outputs as much. It's just kind of this number here is to help you keep track of like, okay, I've ran this for this many. But yeah, no real repercussions if like you enter this number wrong. The augmentation strength, this one is a little bit important to set correctly. Basically like how this particular model of Stallion trains is that it does a lot of dataset augmentations, which means that it's like it's a little bit hard to explain, but essentially like as it's training, it's modifying your data with like different color shifts or like mirroring to try and get like a more robust training result. And yeah, as training goes on, it amps up the augmentation. And so if you're resuming from an intermediate point of training, it's important to let it know like, okay, you were at augmentation strength 5 when you left off, so pick back up from 5. And the way you see what number to set here is there's a log in this folder, and you go to the log. This is literally the same output as is spit out in Colab. So this log is the same as like what was right here earlier. But you would go down, find the corresponding K images. So like, for example, if we're looking at, this one is, let me go to the same folder. 00021, because I'm grabbing this pickle file from this folder. So let's go there to 00021. And I'm saying here that I want to start training off of 4128. So that's this one with these images and this pickle file. And so if I go to the log and I scroll down, to 4128. K images 4128. Over here, there's an augmentation value, which is 35.587. And so I would take that number and put that here as the augmentation strength. Yeah. And then everything else is exactly the same. Grain count. Oh, this I think needs to be a string. And then, yeah, pretty much the same command to start training. And this will just know that you want to resume off of that old pickle file with this augmentation strength. So pretty much the only things you need to edit if you're resuming training are these 3 parameters. Like pickle file you want to start off of again, the augmentation strength, which you've gone and matched up from here, like the K images to this number, which you copied and pasted and put right here. And then this train count, which comes, it's pretty much for your own reference, but it's just this K images number 4128. Yeah, and then this will just start the training back up from where you left off. Yeah. Any questions about that?
Do you set a limit on training, or you just kind of like let it go for a while?
Yeah, just kind of let it go. Colab will quit you out after like 20 hours anyway. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
What was the mirroring bit about? What does that affect?
That will mirror your data set like left to right if you
Oh,
set it to true or not.
so it's like the tools that we just looked at, or the
Mhm.
processing tools, but it does that automatically.
Yeah, this one, yeah, that part of it is like built into this particular model. Yeah, but if you were like training a model on images of text, for example, you probably want it to be false. But with like faces or landscapes or things that make sense to be symmetric, having it set as true is good. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, if not, in general, your homework is to, if you've done training in Runway already, to do the same thing in Colab and see, yeah, basically like go through the same process, but in a different tool in Colab. Yeah, I think in general, depending on your budget, Colab will be more sustainable if you want to make a lot of work this way. And it's, yeah, it's the process that I use. Yeah, and so like I said, in Colab as it's training, you'll get out, like it'll save everything in this folder, like under results. It'll save out these folders, and in these folders there'll be a log, there'll be pickle files and their corresponding JPEGs. Yeah, the pickle file, it's the same pickle file that you downloaded from Runway. Like if you go and click download, yeah, the pickle files contain the actual model at that point in time. And you'll like, this is like, yeah, like the model if you want to use it later on. It's like the file with all of the content. There are the fakes files, which are generated examples from this step. So this fake 1049.1 will correspond to the outputs from this model, this pickle file of 1049.1. And you can just look at those to judge the quality of how it's doing. In general, if you're trying to decide, like, I don't know, is it after 500 steps, is that better than after 600 steps? So here is, in general, an example of it this training example after 2260 steps or 2350, 2570, and 2660. You probably don't want to like compare them with such granularity. Like these are only about 100K images apart. Like slight differences between these won't really make that much of a difference. Yeah, in general, it's better to compare across like larger swaths of training, like 990 to 24 or 2040 to 4080 to 5140, because like each of these is just a random sample and it's not super representative of, well, yeah, ideally it is representative of everything it generates, but they are just like, keep in mind that they're just random samples of what that model generated, and just slight fluctuations from like adjacent checkpoints that are really close in time won't be like, it won't make like a huge difference in the outputs. If you want to like select something and have it be a definitive, like this model overall, all of the outputs of this model across all of the outputs will be different in this way. If you're comparing across like larger spans of time, you can be more confident that all of the outputs will be like that. Yeah, and so your homework is to try out training in Colab. Yeah, I think that's about it for today. That was a good amount of content. Yeah, any questions to close us out?
I'm just wondering about like, is there a way to reduce the number of pickle files that it saves out, just to reduce the amount of storage as you go? Or is it kind of like every 20 or so it will save?
It will. Yeah, there is a way. I think it's currently set to a default number of like every 16. And that amounts to like a pickle file being saved out every, hold on. I'm just checking the logs. I think it amounts to one being saved at every like hour and a half or so.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, I think like the default is good to start with, but yeah, I think if you hit a limit, that's something that can be customized. But in general, like every half hour or so is good in case like, yeah, something cuts out with your internet and you, yeah, at most you would lose like an hour and a half of training.
Where can I find this recording eventually?
I will post it on YouTube and then here. It'll be linked to the class page. The class page is right here. And then, yeah, I still have yet to upload a couple of recordings.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've been on that one. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But this is like, yeah, where I will be storing everything for class.
Where can I find that link?
It's in the Slack channel. It's the pinned page up here.
Great.
Well, I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm on the Slack channel. Could you send me a link to it?
Well, it says Annie is right here.
I've never used Slack, so I probably just don't understand how to get to it. But I'll figure it out. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Good luck with or have fun with the Tribeca event.
Yeah. Thank you.
What was the name, sorry, of the project?
It's called Polly. Here, I just dropped it in the chat. But you can like sign up for a day to experience the thing.
Awesome. Cool.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Well then, if there are no more questions, yeah, I look forward to seeing like more of your stuff in the Slack. Yeah, it's really cool to see like these circuit boards and the X-ray and like the Uline fake products.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool results, y'all. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Yeah.
Ooh.
Cool. All right. Well then, I'll see you all next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Good night.